Would you like to hear some good news from some good folks that we know? From out in Music Valley, where the country music grows. They'll tell you their stories, so just kick off your shoes and listen to their stories on the Music Valley News.
Thank you, young man.
I can't do it. I want to do it again.
Well, hey, everybody. Hollywood Howie here, Music Valley News. And I'm sitting right outside the historic John A's. Well, here in a little while, we'll be going inside and talking to the son of John A., Joe Hobbs. Y'all stay tuned. Hey everybody, Hollywood Howie here. This is our first episode of Music Valley News, and we are here at the famous John A's right here in Music Valley, and I'm here with Joe Hobbs, and we're going to be talking about the history of Music Valley. How you doing today, Joe?
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, I've been here 8 years, and I've been coming down here to the Valley. When I went down to Broadway a few times, and then somebody told me about Music Valley. And I come out, and one of the first places I went to was, of course, the Nashville Palace, and then scoreboards, and eventually I made it over here to John A's.
Well, good.
And it looks a lot different now.
Did quite a bit of remodeling. Remodeling. My dad died a year and a half ago, 91, and we planned on doing it before he passed, and with all the complication stuff we waited after that.
Right.
Reopened it right in the middle of this COVID. So everything's starting to pull together now, but we're tickled to death the way it's come down.
Right now, you know, as I look around, you know, I see right over here, the original Nashville Palace, Jerry Reed's Nashville Palace. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Well, let me go back just a little bit.
Okay.
This used to be Rudy's Farm. And Dan and Frank Rudy owned it, and they had this sausage business, one of the biggest in the South probably. Well, they called my dad up one time. Him and his partner Louis McRedmond owned a hotel down here on Briley Parkway. So Frank and Dan were getting bombarded with these large hotels wanting to build a hotel on their property because Opryland theme park had just opened.
Right.
So they called my dad up and wanted to know if they go in partners build a hotel down here. And so Dad got his partner, Lewis, went down there. They met in the field. My dad showed them how big 2 buildings would be. They shook hands in the middle of that field. They walked away, started construction on it. Probably didn't have a signed contract. They almost got it finished. But we built that, I think, in '75. And then in '77, we built the Nashville Palace. And Jerry Reed I think he just finished Smoking the Bandit. And Jerry was just funny as he could be. Dad approached him, wanted to know if he could want to go in partners with him and just basically use Jerry's name and Jerry not put up any money. But Jerry had to perform so many times a year.
Right.
Well, Jerry enjoyed the bar more than most people. After the first year, I think Jerry got up, he had performed like 2 or 3 times during the year. And my dad said, Jerry, you know, this just isn't working out too good. He said, why don't we just be friends, part ways, and so we took the name Jerry Reed off of it, and it just became the Nashville Palace. And where the Nashville Palace is now used to be a car museum.
Wow.
And Nashville Palace used to be up on the corner where Caney Fort Restaurant is.
Right, right.
So we built that in '77, and every year we build a different building down here. I think we built a car museum where the palace is now. We probably built that in '82, somewhere around there. But Dad had a lot. My dad was in World War II when he was 15. He paid a hobo 50 cents to sign his mom's name to the paper. And he went in and he had an 8th grade education. But I'm gonna tell you, not because he's my dad, but he's one of the smartest businessmen I ever met.
Yeah.
He didn't get burnt too many times, and if he did, whoever burned him would regret it.
Oh, I bet. Now, right behind us, if we can get a shot of this, there's probably going to be people see this and go, "Who is Randy Ray?" Well, Randy Ray is Randy Travis, and I'll let Joe tell us.
His name is really Randy Trawick.
Oh, okay.
And we had his first paycheck from the National Palace somewhere. I don't know what we did with it. But Randy, I won't get in a lot of detail, but Randy came down here from South Carolina, or North Carolina, back in the early 80s. And his manager, who eventually became his wife, Lib Hatcher, she brought him down here. My dad just had let his manager at the Palace go. And Lib just happened to call the day after that and said she's coming to Nashville with this superstar, or he's going to be a superstar, and she want to get his foot in the door and stuff. And my dad said, "Well, look, you can run the Nashville Palace, but you know the rules. If you don't do your end, fulfill your side of it, then we won't let you go." Well, Lib was a great manager. She kind of coached Randy into the direction he went into. But he used to do dishes for us, and in between sets, my dad would always let amateurs get up and sing.
Right.
Alan Jackson, Lori Morgan, she started off with us.
Wow.
She opened up, and Jerry Reed's Daughter was on one side. We had two bands going at the same time, but you couldn't hear them because of the thickness of the walls.
Right.
But Randy would get up and sing a couple of songs and go back and do dishes. And then eventually they got him where he would do more singing than he would dishes, and then he got where he was just singing and had his own. We had a band for him and stuff, and you know LD.
Right.
Well, LD he played for the house band, and when Randy made it big, they asked if LD go with him.
Right.
Dad said by all means, if he
Well,
can
yeah.
increase himself, let him go. So Randy did well. He's did extremely well. Great singer.
Now, you know, I can obviously John was a sports guy, and I've seen all the old pictures of him with Tommy Lasorda. Was he that big of a Dodgers fan? Because I'm a Yankee man myself, but John, I'm sorry if you're listening.
Well, a guy ways from the Nashville area, I think around Cookville, across from, and Bob Smith. And when he was a teenager, he ran away, I think he ran away. Anyways, he went to California. He got a job working at Dodger Stadium. By the time he was 26, they put him in charge of Dodger Stadium.
Wow.
And Mr. O'Malley did. So his sister was a good friend of ours, and Bob came in one Christmas. He met my dad. This is probably late 70s. And he told Dad, he said, "Look, if you got some free time, come out next year." He said, "Well, watch games, and I'll get you some passes and introduce some people." Dad went out. I think that next year they're going into the Dodgers playing in the series, and Dad flew out there for that. And Bob took Dad into Tommy's office, and they just clicked. I mean, it was just like they both love people. They love to drink. They love food. They love to party, and they just got along great together.
From all the pictures I've seen, that's obvious.
Yeah.
Yep.
My brother and I went out to Tommy's 90th birthday 3 years ago, and then, as you know, Tommy passed away a few months ago.
Right.
But just good long friendships.
Yeah, looking on the walls and seeing all these pictures of all these legends, and I've been lucky enough in my 8 years to get to know quite a few of them, and like Jeannie Seeley, and got to meet Charlie Pride and old Shotgun Red.
Well, you know, back in the day when we had the Palace, it would not be anything to go in there and see any of the country music or the Grand Ole Opry stars.
Right.
I mean, just about all of them came in there. But you go in there sometimes, it wouldn't be anything to see Johnny Cash, George Jones, or Alan Jackson used to work across the street at the Gaylord, at the Opryland theme park.
Wow.
And he would come over on occasions, and like I said, Dad would let people that he knew sing pretty good
Right.
get up and sing, and Alan would come in and ask the band leader, Steve Hill, said, "Alan, you care if I sing tonight?" And I remember one time Steve's going, "Alan, I don't have time for you right now. Just come back later on. He said, well, I'm going to sleep out in my van. Can you wake me up when it's my turn? So go wake him up. Allie come in and sing, but just a lot of fond memories. You being a baseball fan, you know who Joe West is?
Oh, yes.
Umpire Joe West.
Oh, yes.
Well, he sings also, and Joe is a real close friend.
Wow.
I mean, he is just super close to us. As a matter of fact, we have a book, and I want to give you, written about Dad.
Oh, awesome.
And Joe did the forward in the book. But Joe, this year he'll celebrate the most games umpired by umpire in history. He's, I think he's umpired another 25, 30 games. He'll break the record.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And alrighty, folks, we're just about done here. Now we'll be taping other episodes around the valley and talking to a lot more people on the history of this on the valley. And I can remember as a kid coming down with my mom and dad and to Tennessee, but living here is a lot different than just coming down, going to the amusement park, because that's all us kids wanted to do back then. No matter what mom and dad wanted to do, they'd drop us off at the park.
That's right.
But we had a lot of fun. I want to thank Joe Hobbs for his time telling us the history of John A's and the rest of the valley here, National Palace and all that. And we'll see you.
Would appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Joe, so much. And we appreciate everybody for supporting us. And we'll see you real soon.
Well, Fiddler's Inn, my dad and his partner, Louis McRaven, owned a hotel up on I-40 and Bradley Parkway. It's right after Opryland theme park was built. So Dad gets a call from one of the Rudy brothers that this was their farm originally. I forget how many hundred acres they had. But they just want to know if Dad and his partner Louis come in and talk to him about building a motel on their farm. And one thing led to another. They met him down there that day, shook hands in the middle of the field, turned around. My dad got blueprints made up within 2 weeks. They began work on it within 6 weeks. And the rest was history. They didn't sign a contract probably almost the time they opened up. So Fiddler's was the first thing built on this farm. And it goes back a long ways to the Rudy family.
Now, I heard a story not too long after I moved here and started hanging out about the Fiddler's Inn when people were telling me that your dad built it and all that. Somebody told me he was out working, laying the foundation, and Ernest Tubb had walked up and asked him what he was doing, and he said, well, I'm just fiddling in.
Well, no, it was Roy Acuff.
Was it Roy? Okay.
Yeah. We were building the whole Fiddler's Inn, like I said, after he met with the Rudy brothers, and Roy Acuff lives on the other side of the river up on a bluff, and he oversees all this area down here. And he was watching all the building going on, just got curious, and he got in his car, drove down here. And he got out, got talking to my dad, and said, John, so what are y'all building here? He said, well, we're building a motel. And he said, it was going to be, how many units were in it. He said, but we're just working on it. He said, it started sprinkling a little bit. And Roy turned around and said, well, John, I'm going to leave you be. He said, I'm getting out of this rain. He said, well, Roy, pick you up a shovel and help us dig his foot in a little bit. He said, no. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll keep fiddling, you keep digging. And so when Roy left, Dad said, we're going to call this Fiddler's Inn. And that's how it got the name Fiddler's Inn.
Nice.
And we renamed the other one up here at I-40 Bradley Parkway. We named it Fiddler's South. This is Fiddler's North.
Nice.
So we had two of them.
Nice. See, those are the stories. I hear all different kinds of stories, but then when you talk to the people that knew it was there and all that, you get the real story.
Well, let me touch a little bit on, you talking about Ernest Tubb.
Yes.
See, when we had the palace, the back side of it had, I'll tell you, when we had the National Palace, we had two sides. Had the nightclub area, and then we had the lounge. And then the lounge, after several years, it just wasn't doing as good as nightclubs, so we shut it down, and Dad got with Ernest Tubb, and they opened up Ernest Tubb Western Wear. And so Ernest, he got the clothes and stuff in there, and it just had his name on it. They had somebody else hired to buy all the clothing and all that. And it wouldn't be anything just see Ernest Tubb walking around, just that slow walk he had, that big tall guy. I mean, he was just as nice and humble. Roy Acuff was the same way.
That's what I've
Both
heard.
of them were just as nice and humble men as they could be.
Man.
Good old country boys, it seemed like.
I would have loved to have met them.
Yeah,
Man, I'll
they
tell
were
you.
good.
And so, oh Lord, where's I gonna go? So, you know, I see a lot of sports memorabilia here as well, especially the Dodgers. Now, I know John's probably watching this. Sorry, John, but I've always been a Yankee fan. But I see a lot of Tommy Lasorda and pictures of Tommy and stuff. Can you give us a little history on your dad and the Dodgers?
Well, my dad was like a people magnet. He had this way of just talking to people. He didn't care if you were the bum on the street or president of the United States. He's talked to all of them, and he either brings you up or down to his level. But he doesn't ever talk to anybody. He doesn't talk down to anybody or anything else. But Tommy, there's a guy from Nashville. He went out when he was a teenager. Went out to California, got a job, Dodger Stadium. Bob Smith. He started working on the field and stuff. And by the time he was 26, they had a little feud there at Dodger Stadium, and Peter O'Malley hired Bob to run the stadium at 26 years old. Well, Bob's sister's a good friend of ours, and Bob came in one time, probably in the late 70s, and she introduced Dad and Bob together, and Bob invited Dad out to LA to watch one of the Dodgers games. It just happened to be the series was the next year, and he went out and took Dad down to Tommy's locker room and introduced him, and they just became best friends.
Wow.
They just clicked, and up until my dad got cancer and stuff and died at 91, and him and Tommy still best friends.
Wow.
I mean, they just loved each other, and every time Tommy could get close to Nashville, he'd fly in here instead of flying to Louisville or Atlanta or something here, and then he would drive down.
Wow.
But he's a good man.
I met your dad a couple times. I'd come in and I'd be sitting over there at the bar and get my Jack and Coke and order chicken livers.
Yeah.
And almost every time I would be sitting there eating them, I'd be lucky enough, John would walk by and he'd just stop for a minute, put his hand on my shoulder, and he says, "That's good eating, son," and walk on. You know, and I love that about him. He was just that personable and such a great guy. And I've learned so much about him in the book.
Good.
The day you gave that to me, I was sitting over at Music City, and when it was a nice day, I went out on the patio, and I read 7 chapters right off the bat. I just could not put that book down. And what I liked about it is the beginning of it tells the history of Nashville.
Yeah.
And how it came about, and reading about your dad growing up as a kid, the way he went out and worked to support the family.
He came up by the hardest. His father was an alcoholic. He functioning alcoholic, I guess you'd say. But his mother, she just worked here and there, worked switchboards at Vanderbilt Hospital, and Dad, he was delivering papers at age 12. He was delivering telegrams at age 13. And he's had so many stories about delivering telegrams to governors and people like that. But his paper route was part of the state penitentiary. He didn't live but a few miles from there, and he said it wouldn't be anything to go down there. And if he's delivering papers early in the morning, and if all the lights dimmed in that area, somebody's being electrocuted.
Right.
And he said that would happen more times than you would think back in those days.
Right.
But it would just dim the whole power system down there. But he just, at age 15, he didn't have anything else to do. He just he couldn't find a good job, and at being that age, so he went down to Birmingham and signed up for the Army, and filled out all the forms. Army recruiter said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 15." And they go, "Good Lord, man!" So you wasted our time. So we can't take you at 15. So you got to have your parents' signature, your mother's signature on here before we bring you in. And so him and his buddies slept out in the park at night, and they woke up and had just enough money to get a hamburger and a Coke, and they split both of them, and with sparing enough money to get them back to Nashville. And Dad looked at his partner and said, "What if we pay that hobo over here 50 cents? See if he'll sign our mom's signature to that form." They gave him 50 cents. He signed their names to both forms. Went back in. They took him the very next day. But he had a little gap there. He signed up and they accepted him, but he didn't go in until about a month or two later. came back to Nashville. But after that, he was in the Pacific in World War II.
Right.
He was on a repair ship, aircraft repair ship, where they would repair everything, props, propellers,
Right.
engines, everything. They make whatever they had to make. And he'd gone through the Panama Canal, I think, 6 times. And he was on 4 or 5 different ships, and he was honorably discharged at age 18. So he just had a hard life. He was in Tokyo Bay when they signed the peace treaty.
Wow.
And just sit around and talk to him. Even being the son, he'd still be amazed at a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, and of course, one thing I've always loved about the Hobbs and everything here in the Valley is they've always been a big supporter of the troops and the veterans.
Absolutely.
And so from this veteran, Joe, I want to say thank you to the Hobbs family and you.
Appreciate it.
And I think that's about it for today. And we'll come back to do a second interview for the rest of the show, talk more about the book. And y'all come on down here to John Hayes, right here in the heart of Music Valley, and pick yourself up a book, John Hayes' autobiography, the man, the visionary. Because if it wasn't for John A. and the Hobbs family, Music Valley wouldn't be Music Valley. This is Hollywood Howard for Music Valley News. Until next time, be better to your neighbors, and you'll have better neighbors.